John Lewis, who was a very close friend of my father's, who was badly beaten at that time, and who is now a congressman from Georgia and remained very close to almost a surrogate father to me and my 10 brothers and sisters after my father died. He made a wonderful speech this week in which he said, well, yeah, the Supreme Court has said that things have changed in the South, but things have changed before in the South. And after the Civil War, during the period of Reconstruction, all blacks could vote. And they did have the vote, but that vote was taken away from them. And so, there have been times in our history when people have been given the vote, and the vote was then later taken away. And as you've seen in this, it's the 50th anniversary, right, 2 weeks ago of Medgar Evers' death, and which was precipitated by the riots and by the violence that followed the integration of the University of Mississippi, where my uncle had to send 20,000 troops. That's more troops than were in Vietnam during his entire time in office. It's more troops than President Johnson sent to the Dominican Republic. There were 600 U.S. Marshals there with orders not to shoot. There were 60 people who were injured, 2 who died that night. And my uncle went on TV the next day and said, we're going to have a Voting Rights Act. It wasn't passed till after he died. But what they found out as soon as they passed it, they got rid of the most egregious impediments, which were the poll tax and then the literacy tests, which were infamous because, of course, a black person would come in and there'd be a white panel there, and the white panel would say to the black person, recite the Constitution, and then, of course, he couldn't do it. If an illiterate white person came before the same panel, they'd ask him what his favorite color was, and he would be given the right to vote. So there were counties throughout the South that had a majority black voters, many dozens, and a majority black population, not a single black voter. After we passed the Voting Rights Act, those states figured out new ways to block people from voting, like literacy tests and like gerrymanders. And so Congress said, wait a second, you're just figuring out new ways to do the same thing. We are going to have laws for the 10 states that had slavery and the 6 other states that have continually shown discriminatory practices in their voting. For those states, we're going to make the states, before they change the voting rule, come before get approval from the United States Justice Department. And so that's the heart and soul of the Voting Rights Act. It's the only thing that makes the Voting Rights Act work.